What's up, everybody? It's your boy Coleman.
Hello, beautiful people. Dio in the house.
And today's episode is all about everybody's And today's episode is about everybody's favorite B word. It's budgeting.
Budgeting. Yeah. Woo-woo. So we're going to make budgeting sexy.
I don't think that's possible.
We're
Dustin.
bringing sexy back.
I don't think you should do that either.
No?
But I don't think
I can't bring sexy back, but that's because 41 years of age have kind of worn down this old man. But no. Budgeting, right? And it's more than just budgeting. Like, this is your financial fitness, right? Like, where do we all fail? We tend to fail about 2 to 3 things collectively as humans, and especially as Americans, right? We fail at financial fitness, we fail at physical fitness, and we fail at relationships, right? If we could dominate all 3 of those, we'd probably be at the peak or the pinnacle of our being. So I want to walk the audience through the best I can. I want to paint a picture of something that was taught to my wife and I 15 plus years ago. We didn't pay our bills using checking and savings. We used a credit card for a month so that we could save enough money for a down payment to buy a house because we needed 5% down. And then we got the seller to pay our closing costs. Okay, so to kind of give you an idea of like what financial misfits we were, right? So we weren't making the best financial decisions. We were like most people, right? Like, we didn't learn this in high school. We went to a great university. That class wasn't offered. If it was offered, I didn't take it, right? So if you listen to the intro, you know that we come from, it's not just my household, right? I realize talking to my friends or talking to you, it's everyone's household. Like, how many households do your parents dominate personal finance? Are they like totally fiscally fit? They're probably not, right? So we go see Kirk, and Kirk's going to devise this system that Michelle and I need to follow. And it's still the system today that we buy into. And what was really cool about Kirk, I was telling you this earlier off the air, he was the only marriage counselor we needed. Like, back then, I mean, come on, you're newlyweds, you don't have any kids yet, you don't really have any real life problems, so life was great, except for when it came to finances, right? Michelle would have her philosophies, I'd have mine, we'd argue over, well, should we spend money on a cruise, or should we spend money to go see Aunt Jenny in Chicago, right? We went to see Kirk, and not only did he lay out this plan that I'm going to teach you guys over the next 20, 25 minutes, but for the first time, Kirk sat me down and he said, hey, Dustin, you're not Superman. You can't save the world, right? Because my mentality is one in which the glass is always half full, and if it can go well, it will, which, by the way, I recommend that to everybody. It's worked out well. And my wife, she would call herself a realist. Sometimes I call her Negative Nancy. So what we had is Kirk tells her, hey, Michelle, you're not 90 and dying. Somewhere in the middle, you guys need to meet, right? Hey, Dustin, things are going to go wrong in your life. You need to be prepared for it. Hey, Michelle, your life and your future is super bright. Let's prepare for that too. Okay, so we sit down with Kirk, literally. Can't rub 2 nickels together. If you do, you're going to get a whole bunch of debt. And I'm guessing $10,000, $12,000. I know at one point in our life, we had $12 grand in credit card debt, a combined $20,000 in student loan debt, had 2 vehicles that we had financed. They were both upside down, right? So if it's upside down, that means it's not worth as much as it's owed. She was pregnant with our first. We had just moved from West Palm to Orlando and decided, wouldn't it be nice if Michelle didn't go back to work? So she was a high school and middle school English teacher, depending on what city we lived in. Yeah, that'd be a great idea. Oh, hey, Dustin, by the way, you just started a brand new career. You left TV advertising for this job as a loan originator, and that job's 100% commission.
Sign me up.
Yeah, right. Sign me up. And oh, by the way, you're working in a field where who you know matters, right? Like, we need, as loan officers, we need referrals from our friends and our family and our network, right? Well, my 2 best friends at the time lived at home with mom and dad. Like, what type of circle was I running in? Those people weren't buying houses, right? They probably thought I was rich, right? Because I had a job. I had one of those JOBs. Like, I actually had a W-2 with benefits. So that wasn't working out. And my parents, their social circles weren't like the most affluent social circles. It wasn't like, my dad's like, oh yeah, my college buddy, he's a home builder. He'll hook you up, bro. Go talk to him, right? Although my dad would never say bro. I would probably say bro. My dad wouldn't. So that just kind of paints a little bit of picture of like where we were. So we sit down and here's what we realize. And by the way, anyone who wants to talk about physical fitness, some of these same principles apply. For the first 30 days, there's a couple things that people need to do. First thing, write down everything you spend money on. Let me ask you, do you think that'd be fun?
No, it would be eye-opening and depressing at the same time.
Yeah, you were in Vegas a week or two ago. You want to tally up those drinks at $19 a pop?
Don't remind me, sir.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, hey, I'm going to tell you, it ain't fun. There's nothing fun about writing down what you spend money on, okay? But it's everything, right? Whether it's, if you're into cigars, it's cigars. If it's lattes, it's lattes. Your kid is invited to a birthday party and you stop by Target for a gift card. Like, everything gets written down. And you do that for 30 days because that's going to let you know where your money's at least going. And for some of us, it's going to be like, ooh, I have more going out than I do going in, right? Because we sometimes think, oh, I have a salary. My salary is $60,000 a year. I can spend $5,000 a month. Well, no, you can't. Like, do you get $5,000 a month? No, you get like $38.88 because there's things like taxes and there's things like benefits and hopefully 401k is coming out of that, right? So you write everything down. And it's sickening and it's sad and every emotion you'll go through, you'll face it. And by the way, anyone who wants to get physically fit, I dare you to write down everything you eat for a month. Just write it down and then go back and review it. You think you eat healthy until you write it down. Well, you think you spend healthy until you write it down. So the whole point of writing everything down is to get a baseline. You want to figure out where can you cut, okay, and where can you not cut. And there are certain things that you can cut, but then do you want to cut? Because as far as I know, I have one life I remember. Right? Some people might believe in an afterlife or reincarnation, but even if I am a reincarnated version of somebody else, I don't remember it. So I have one life I remember. I need to enjoy it. So there's certain things that if you enjoy a cigar, then budget it in. Right? If you have kids, they're going to get sick, so you have to budget. And you can't one-off, oh, well, that was that one time Sally broke her leg. Well, guess what? Something like that's going to happen. So you budget that in. But if you find out that you're going to Starbucks too much, if you find out that you're going out with the girls for lunch too much, you need to pack, you'll figure out ways where you can cut. But once you find where it is that your budget is, where your sweet spot is, that's step one. Step two, we have to never go over that budget again. Ever. Just can't do it. You just can't.
But what about those new pair of shoes I wanted?
That's good to want things in life. Do you really want to get into wants versus needs right now? I think that's like a whole nother podcast. In fact, like we don't even have that slated on the docket yet, but don't get me started on wants versus needs. So no, John, no. Coleman, that is a want, it's not a need. And by the way, the sneakers you buy, hey, homeboy, go to Walmart. You can get them for like $12.
Sure.
You don't need the newest Yeezys.
Those Walmart Velcros are good for cutting the grass and cleaning out the driveway, though.
Hey, I see like every old man in Fort Myers rocking them. They must be comfortable.
Low key, I did buy a pair and I wore them all over the place. I got a lot of funny looks, but hey,
they're comfortable and they work. They're practical, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we write down our budget and know we're not going to go and spend money frivolously. By the way, this budget will get you to a point that you can spend money frivolously, right? But right now we're not. So we get the budget. Everything's all well and good. And now that's what we're sticking to. I'm assuming that you, me at the time, have credit card debt that we're carrying, right? So we got to stop that. Just stop it. But paying off your credit card is not number one priority. Did you know that?
That sounds counterintuitive.
It does sound counterintuitive. No, what we first need to do is put together and put in place a system that says you never need a credit card again. Right? So you did the hard part. You wrote down for 30 days what you're spending money on. You figured out your budget. You cut where you could cut. You made sure you kept some things in there so you can enjoy life a little bit, like, babysitter and date night once a month. You might be doing it twice a week, and twice a week might be too much for your budget currently. but don't cut it out altogether because we do need to enjoy life. So hard part's done. You need at a minimum 3 months of that sitting in a separate account. So what I'm going to get into, this is a 3-account system, right? I didn't cover that up front. Didn't really feel the need to. I'll jump into it right now though. Understand that this system works if you have 3 accounts. So for me, how it was taught and how I still operate, I have a checking account, I have a money market account, and a savings account. Look, money market account's a fancy name for another savings account, right? Money market accounts back in the day were supposed to pay like a slightly higher interest rate, but you don't put money in checking savings or a money market account to earn interest. It's like less than 1%, just FYI. But so you can have a checking account and 2 savings accounts, however you want to call it, right? But your entire paycheck gets dumped into that money market account. Okay, money market account, that's just the massive collection or repository for your money to go. From that, you're going to spit money off into 2 separate directions, right? The first direction is bill pay. You know, because you did your budget, that you need $1,800 to get you through the 1st through the 15th, right? That's things like gas and groceries and car insurance and car payment, student loan payment, cigars, rolling the dice at Aria in Vegas, like whatever it is, like whatever you have budgeted in, you know that goes there, right? So you should be taking your checking account. It's going to scare some of you. You should be taking your checking account down to 0.
What?
Yeah, down to 0. Because that's your budget. You have already said, I'm going to spend this much money for the first 15 days. Now, here's what's going to happen. You're going to sit down and do your budget, and I'm just guessing. I'm throwing out random numbers here. $1,800 for the first half, right? John and his wife, dual income, no kids. So for those of us with kids, there's no way in heck we could survive on $1,800, but they can, hypothetically. So you slide it over. But if you get to day 11 and you're like looking around, you're like, I only have like $41 left. Cool. Good story, bro. Good story. Hey, guess what? You're living off of $41 for the next 5 days. There is no, I'll go swipe the credit card, right? No, you're sticking to a budget. We are going to teach you how to have 0 negative debt, how to have 6 months worth of reserves, right? How to eventually be maxing out things like 401ks and maxing out things like IRAs, right? That's the overall big picture. The pot at the end of the rainbow is to get you to that point.
But haven't we been taught, like, isn't it good? I heard someone told me, it's good to have some balances on your credit, to have, it builds credit if you pay it off. Is that a myth? Have you heard
So I've been working with consumers and credit reports for going on 15 years. Here's what I can tell you about credit. Have it, pay it on time, call it a day. You want to have great credit. Yeah, you should have 2 or 3 open credit lines. You should never, ever, 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 ever have a credit card maxed out. I don't care if the credit card's only a $300 limit and you're going to pay it off. Nope. Things don't work that way. Just know, ever, ever, never have a credit card maxed out. In fact, if you have a $300 credit card limit, you never want to charge more than $149 on that card, even if you're planning on paying it off in full. Pay your bills on time. That's how you have good credit. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. I'm sure if we got Harry Snedden in here, Harry's a buddy of mine, owns a company by the name of Score Crafters up in DeLand, Florida. What up, Harry? I'm sure we can have him on as a guest in the future, and he can get real finite and real geeky with us on how to maximize our credit score. But I joke with people, like, you can be a 760 credit score. I'm like, you can finance a small nuclear war. I don't care if you're 760 or 770, 800. Once you're over 760, in my world, the mortgage finance world, it's irrelevant. Now, my buddies in the car industry, they might want to see in the 800s, but again, we're not here to talk about buying a car. When it comes to your credit, have it, pay it on time, never max out, next. All right, so you need to save 3 months of your lifestyle in reserve. Now, while you're doing this, you're also following that budget, right? So I was talking about the first 15 days. If what happens when you get to day 11 and you don't have but $41, you make that $41 work. Right? That might mean you're taking the bus because you don't have gas. You're walking. You're taking your bike because you don't have gas money. You're not going out to lunch. You're telling your friends, hey, I'm so sorry. We can't do dinner this weekend because maybe the weekend falls on the 12th and 13th and you don't, quote unquote, pay yourself again to the 15th. That's on you. Like, you guys have to figure that out. That's part of the budget. And that's part of the pain. I once had one of my childhood friends tell me that he wouldn't come to my house to watch a UFC fight because I didn't own a flat screen.
Some friend.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it made sense, right? But I was going through this program, this system, and my wife and I made up our mind, come hell or high water, we're going to get out of this credit card debt. We're going to get 3 to 6 months of reserve, and we're never going to be in credit card debt again. Well, that meant I didn't buy a flat screen. The minute they came out, all my buddies were buying them. I didn't, right? I could have. I had good credit. I could go swipe that credit card. I'm sure Best Buy would have given me 0% for 18 months. But no, the program doesn't call for it, right? So we're talking about 3 bank accounts. All your money goes into the money market, which is like, let's call it the middle. I hate holding up 3 fingers to the camera because it's like, what if I drop these 2? But all the money slide into that money market account, all right? On the first of the month, you slide over enough for the first half of your budget. On the 15th of the month, you're going to slide over the rest of the money you need for your budget. Now, you're probably wondering, what do I do with the rest of the money? Like, what if you all had $5,000 dropped, right? You needed $1,800 for the first half of the month. You needed $2,200 for the second half of the month, and you're left with $1,000. Can you go buy your new shoes?
Absolutely.
Hell to the no. No. Because you don't have 6 months reserves. So 6 months reserves is 6 months of your lifestyle. This isn't if I survive on ramen noodles, cut my cable off, and walk to work every day, I can survive. No, this is I like to go to dinner. I like to go to Starbucks. I like to smoke cigars. What's my budget? You need 6 months of that always in reserve. What'll happen ultimately is you'll hit 3 and you'll go celebrate it. We're real big in the Owen household of celebrating, right? And we celebrate with travel. I mean, this year, Hawaii, Alaska, Wyoming, like, that's what we do. Something good happens, let's celebrate it. We don't do Christmas gifts, we do trips, right? So you're going to celebrate 3, but that's not the end goal. The end goal is 6. So in this same analogy, any money that's left over in that money market account, if you don't have 6 months of your lifestyle in reserve, it has to stay there. And you're going to rinse, repeat every month, right? When I say rinse, repeat, I mean you slide over what you need for the first 15 days, you work within that budget. On the 15th of the month, you slide in what you need for the next 15 days, you work within that budget. You don't go over it, right? There is no...
What are some tips you can give to those who, want to try to budget, but let's say the self-control is somewhat lacking to where, like, I might get to week 1.5 saving, but I just kind of relapse and fall back to spending. How do you fight that urge? Are there any tips you can give for that?
Well, the word fail, this is a credit to my kid's probably elementary school teacher, is a first attempt in learning. You're going to fail. I'll do it again. I used to be an avid dipper, like it was like my hobby. I loved chewing tobacco, skull straight, long cut. Kids, never put that crap in your mouth. I tried quitting, no lie, 19 times. It took me, I started trying to quit at age 19. By age 29, 11 months, and 2 days, I finally accomplished what I was aiming for. Right? So it's okay. You're going to fail. It happens. Get back on the train. Get back on the train. It's all you can do. Keep on moving forward. And tell yourself, yes, you can. Right? Anything in life, yes, you can. So you're working towards 6 months reserves. You've done your 30-day budget. You know what your budget is. You've cut out where you needed to cut. You've kept in where you need to keep in. One thing I didn't mention, the minute you start this, you're donezo with credit cards. Done. Take them, freeze them. When I say freeze them, you're not picking up the phone and calling the 800 number. You're freezing them. Get out your oldest piece of Tupperware. Drop the credit card into the Tupperware. Fill it with water. Put a lid on the Tupperware. Slide it into your freezer. They're frozen. You're not going to touch them. They are there for if and when life throws you a curveball and you don't have your reserve account met. Because, guys, where I'm going with this is your reserve account is going to be your forever lifesaver. That's where you're going to go for when life throws you a curveball, when your AC goes out, when your refrigerator breaks, right? When your daughter breaks her leg and you have to take an ambulance ride and your medical coverage only covers $200 of the $1,000 ride, right? That's where you're going to go. But in the meantime, you need to keep those credit cards around. And oh, by the way, you're not responsible to use credit cards and pay them off monthly and get the points. That's like level 3.0. We're not even there yet. I'm trying to like launch this for you guys. Okay. So they're going to go there. And the reason why they're going to go there and they're frozen is because, look, you may only have a couple grand in that money market account within the first couple months. And you're going to need to have something for an emergency, right? By the way, emergencies aren't, my boy's getting married and we were doing a bachelor party at Atlantis in Bahamas. No. That's where you suck it up, Buttercup, and say, hey, guys, I've been a moron financially. I've made some really bad decisions. Do me a favor. Don't post that shit on Facebook because it's going to make me jealous, but I can't go. Right? And they're going to call you a bunch of names. They're going to call you out and make fun of you. It's okay because you're going to achieve something that they will always aspire to have, which is financial freedom. Right? That's where we're going with this. All right. So I digress. And I hope we're not too far all over the place. And if we are, my phone number to the office, guys, 407-645-6363. Friend, foe, stranger, anyone's welcome. I'll spend as much time. This is a passion of mine, is teaching anyone that is willing to listen to me everything that should have been taught to us in high school but wasn't, right? That is this. That is budgeting. So the credit card's in the freezer, and they're there because if an oh shit moment happens, look, you go to your freezer, you pull off that top, you run it under some hot water, and 5-10 minutes down the road, you have access to your credit card. The reason why they're there is that so when your boys call you and they're going to Atlantis and you tempted, it's not as easy as going into your wallet. You have to go out and actually defrost it, okay? So credit cards are frozen. You're working on a budget, right? Cash money system's working. All your paychecks are deposited into the money market account. You slide money over to the savings account. And you're going to do this until at first you hit 3 months of your lifestyle in reserve, right? So again, if your number was 4,000, you need 12. 12 times, or 4 times 3 is 12,000. That's your first goal. Now, all we're going to do is let you celebrate. So you're going to go do something big, maybe go do like a night out at Disney or something, spend some of that money, but ultimately you're going to get to 6 months, right? You're not using credit cards because they're frozen, and you're truly running off of cash that you deposit into your checking account on the 1st and the 15th, and every 2 weeks you're running that to zero, okay? So fast forward a year, 18 months. It took Michelle and I about 20 months, I think, to get there. Fast forward, and you're like, okay, I got like 7 months, right? I'm like, all right, man, high five. Well, high five that. So we high five that you have 7 months. But you might be wondering, you told me 3 accounts. What's the third account for? Oh, it's a savings account, a real savings account, right? To save. And do you have an idea what you save for? The reason why you have 6 months of your lifestyle in reserve, like in your case, we determined that your monthly budget was $4,000 a month. Times that by 6 months, you have 24 grand in that money market account. The next time life throws you a curveball, right? The transmission goes in your car. It costs $1,400 to fix. Okay, cool. You go to that money market account. Hey, Coleman's money market account. Yeah. Give me $1,400. All right. What's it going to cost? Nothing. It's your own money, right? So you take that $1,400, but your mindset should be one in which you start to have a little bit of that like hangover anxiety, but it's not from a hangover. It's because you're no longer at $24,000, right? You're at $24,000 less the repair. So now before you go do anything else with money, having fun, buying flat screen TVs, new furniture, vacations, etc., no, you have to pay yourself back. But you're paying yourself back with 0% interest, right? So that's the purpose. A savings account is to save for fun things. We want money in that savings account, right? We call that throwing the money over the fence. Throw it over the fence, right? Checking account's working. On the 15th, you run it to zero. On the 30th, you run it to zero. You're just putting in what you need for bill pay. The money market account is flush with 6 months of your lifestyle in reserve. That means you and your wife could both quit your jobs and for the next 6 months not change your lifestyle. Okay? Now, with money flowing out of the pillar, the money market account, any money that goes over $24,000 is going to go right into that savings account. So whether it's you want to go to Italy, you want a new pair of Yeezys, you want the latest, greatest iPod, that's my 14-year-old son, it's all, I need the new iPod. I'm like, bro, wants versus needs. You don't even need a phone, let alone the newest, latest, and greatest iPod. It's not even called an iPod, it's called an iPhone. Holy cow. Like you would think, I'm literally like on the cusp of almost being a millennial, but from a technological standpoint, I might as well have been born in like the 1920s, not the 2020s.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. With your help, we will. So that's what the savings account is for. If you want to save for something,
so hold on, that's unique because usually, as we're taught when we're raised, the savings account is used just for that, to save.
Yeah, no, not in this system. And that's why it's easier using terms like money market, checking, and savings. Your bank or credit union doesn't have a money market. Okay, you're gonna have two savings account, right? So you're gonna have the catch-all, and then you're gonna have the fun. And I actually recommend you name them, right? You go into online banking, and checking is checking. That's easy. That's for bill pay. That's for everyday life. Your catch-all that's where the money goes into, and it gets dispersed. So it's kind of like the quarterback, right? It's your employer's the center. They hike the ball, right? Your paycheck gets dropped into the quarterback, your money market account. Your money market has to hand some off to the checking account. The rest they're going to keep. Now it's like an option quarterback because now it might run it, right? Do some RPOs here. And then sometimes it's going to hand it off, right? It's going to hand it off, meaning it's going to go into the savings account. And you save for things like new shoes or trips or down payment for a house, like whatever it is that you're saving for, right? This right here in itself, it's a process. This could take 15 months. It could take 36 months, right? Because we're all different. We're all unique. But do you know how you could expedite this?
How?
Okay, let me ask you a question. And I'm going to ask you a question. If I make a statement here, because it's like a big pet peeve of mine. I'm going to get on a soapbox for a second. One of my many. I apologize. So many people focus on saving. We're talking about it right now. Actually, we're talking about budgeting, right? We're talking about being responsible. But they focus on saving. You know what's easier to focus on? We've talked about this before. Earning. But we don't. We don't focus on earning. I don't know why. It's way easier to save and budget when you're bringing more money in. And you can control that. Almost just about every single one of us can control it, right? You can work side gigs, right? You can pick up freelance. If Waterstone says, hey, Coleman, we're not really doing overtime right now, and you come from an environment where you're like, yeah, but I'm used to working 60 hours a week. Cool. Pick up a side hustle, right? I valeted cars. Loved it, right? Valet cars. I can bartend. There are so many different things that I can do if I need to make more money in order to hit my financial goals, in order to become financially fit. Some of us can go back and get a designation, right? By getting a designation, by the way, as long as that designation has a good ROI. Whole separate soapbox is higher education and why those institutions aren't held accountable to discuss ROI with the students and their parents that are paying the amount of money that they charge. But if you have a designation that you can get that has a pretty decent ROI, right? Return on investment, do that, right? Sometimes you have to leverage yourself and look for a new employer, right? Look for a new employer as a way to raise capital, right? Find someone else who's willing to pay you more for the job that you're currently doing and the skill set that you have. So, please know it's not just about saving. It's more about earning. And all of us can find ways to earn more money. I mean, think about Christmas time, right? If I'm a teacher during Christmas time, I can go to a local store and pick up holiday hours. I can go to a local restaurant. And I can pick up holiday hours. There's always something we can do. I was once an assistant auctioneer. My kids were small. Yeah, I was the guy's charity auctions. I can't do the whole yeah, it's a bit of. They use bit of 3, a bit of 4, a bit of 5, a bit of 5, a bit of 6. That's kind of the cadence. No, I was the guy that I won't blow your eardrums out too bad right here, but I'd stand next to you and I'd be like, hey Coleman, man, you're not going to let that guy outbid you, are you? Like, I'd be all up in your ear like, really? Come on. Because these are charity events, so they're for fun. And I'd look at you, you'd look at me, you'd give me a nod, and I'd go, yep, right? And it's like all about having fun. But man, I made $100 a night doing that. And that $100, that was the difference between us being able to fill our middle bucket, that money market account, so that we could eventually get to a point where we had 6 months reserve. We were following a budget, right? That's step one. Step one is we don't even know how much we spend and where the money goes. If you knock that out, you're already better than you were. Like you're talking about failure earlier. If you could just sit down for 30 days and do a financial log, think about how much better you are in terms of being financially fit.
Just by writing it down.
Just by writing it down. It might take you a whole decade to figure the rest of it out. That's cool. At least you have a basis. At least you know where you're coming from. But eventually you're going to have your basis. You're going to have your 6 months reserve, right? You may go find a way to get raises. When you get a raise, you can buy fancier cars. Fancier cars increase your budget. You can buy fancier homes. You can go to more dinners and hire more babysitters, right? Your budget can increase. We're not saying that your budget today is going to be your budget in 3 years. We're just saying the same principles need to be able to follow. And by the way, when your budget goes up from $4,000 a month to $6,000 a month, guess what else goes up?
Savings.
6 months reserves.
Reserve.
Your 6 months reserve has to go up. Yeah. So now you're at 24,000. You're at 36,000. Okay. Now the ultimate goal, you're not saving for anything. You have 6 months reserve. You're crushing your budget. Okay. How are you on your 401k? How are you on an IRA? Right? 401k or 403bs, depending on who your employer is. If you're not contributing, start. Most of us leave free money out there because our employers match. Right? That's like free money. 50 cents on the dollar for the first 6%. If you make $50,000 a year, your employer is basically saying, if you put $3,000 in, I'll give you $1,500. It's a 50% rate of return on your investment, right? A Roth IRA, an IRA, like that's the government's way of saying, hey, you can take some money, invest it, and we're not going to tax you on it, or at least we're not going to tax you on it right now, right? And this is probably getting way far ahead because we're getting into future episodes right now, but the law of compound interest, the law of 72, are you familiar with the law of 72?
Not intimately, no.
All right, cool. Hey, y'all, look this up, get to know it, because I'm going to talk a lot about it in a future podcast. Law 72 basically states, take your rate of return and divide it into 72, and it'll tell you how often your money will double, right? So I'm putting you on the spot. 8 goes into 72 how many times?
8 times 8, 9.
9 times. Ding, 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 ding. Ah. All right. That's a University of Tampa education for you, ladies and gentlemen. 9 times. So the law of 72 states if you are earning an 8% rate of return on your money, every 9 years it will double. Okay, so when we start talking about the reason why we need to invest in things like 401ks and in IRAs, because those are attached to different funds and indexes that have rates of return, and those rates of return are typically on average about 8%. Like, you're missing out on a major wealth accumulation by not investing and investing early, right? So, but today's more about budget. So to recap, and I'll answer any questions that you may have on this, Coleman, but first and foremost, you're going to do the hard part. You're going to write down everything that you spend money on for the next 30 days. You then are going to cut where you need to cut. You're going to keep where you need to keep. And you're going to work towards it. You're going to go to your employer. You're going to set up your direct deposit. That all goes into one account. You have to have 3 accounts for the system to work, right? So they're all going to go into one account. On the first of the month, you slide over just enough for what you need in that checking account, and you're probably going to bleed it dry. The accountability part happens when you get to day 11 and you're almost out of money. Then it forces you not to go overspend. The 15th, you do the next. Any money left over in your money market account stays there until you achieve 6 months reserves. Once you have 6 months reserves, you can start letting money flow over into the savings account, because that's where you do fun things. That's where Dustin gets to buy the flat screen, so Jeff will come watch UFC fights with him, right? That's where we finally get to go on a cruise. That's where you start saving. And then if you master that, think about it. Oh, you know what we didn't do?
What didn't we do?
We haven't addressed your credit card debt.
Oh, that could be. Yeah, that could throw a wrench in the good old plans.
Nope, it's real simple. Real simple. Remember, in the very beginning, you quit using your credit cards because we froze them.
Correct.
Right? You're just going off of cash, checks, anything attached to your checking account. Once you hit 6 months reserves, before you start putting money into the savings account, pay off the credit cards. Pay off the credit cards. And you start with the one with the smallest balance and you work your way up. Now, if you think about it, part of your budget was making payments on your credit card. So we weren't forgetting about them. By the way, I never once said don't pay your credit cards. I said freeze them. But part of your budget was definitely you're going to have to pay them. But don't make it a priority to pay them off. Make it a priority to get your 6 months reserve. That is first and foremost. Because once you have that, let me ask you, how good would you sleep every night knowing you had 24 grand in the bank?
Very good.
Yeah. Yeah. How few not, I don't want to impose that people fight over money. I'm assuming that most couples fight over money at some point. But you kind of take that out of the equation, right? Especially if you both can buy into this system, right? If, like Michelle and I could buy into it. And it was what Kirk had taught us. So we'd be like, oh, what would Kirk say? It was never about what Michelle or Dustin would say. It was about what Kirk would say. Yeah, so pay your credit cards, all right? But get that 24 grand in there first. And then those same principles, before you start saving for the Yeezys and the cruises and the flat screen TVs, go ahead and chunk down those credit cards. You start with the lowest one, only because it's fun to get wins in life. We need wins, right? So if you have a card with 8 grand on it and 3 with $300, 300, 300 is 3 wins. Okay, now you have to tackle the beast. But do you know how you do it?
By paying the minimum balance every month, of course.
But no. No, it's the whole analogy. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
See,
yeah, one bite. One bite at a time. You just start, but you're now in a groove because you're following the budget. You've done something right because you have 6 months reserve. Okay, it's going to take you however long it's going to take you to chunk away. But the ultimate goal is you're going to get to a place where you're financially disciplined because you're following a budget. You have no credit card debt and you have 6 months of your lifestyle in reserve, which means there's no reason you should ever be in credit card debt again. At a minimum, you may wake up one day and say, holy Jesus, I've been a financial jackass and my 24 grand is down to 8 grand. All right. Hit the brakes. Hit pause. You know what to do. You've done it before. It's way easier to get back there. There's an analogy in business. The hardest million is the first, right? You make and save your first million, way easier to get your second and third. Same thing goes here. Once you've done it once, it's way easier, right? Running a half marathon, running triathlon. First one's a bitch. After that, you know what you're getting yourself into. You know how to prepare.
You should have listened to the first podcast. That rings absolutely true.
You mean the one that we're getting ready to go re-record and try to slide it in as if it
Never happened?
Never happened?
We'll see if we can fix that in post.
But that's what I have for today. Do you have any questions on the topic that we covered?
I mean, I think you answered them. The last one I would say is like, what happens if you relapse and you find yourself on hard times again because you saw 24 grand in your account, you kind of went crazy at the Florida Mall. It happens to us all. But no, you answered. It's just really just about being disciplined, getting back on the horse because just like you said, if you've done it once, you can do it again. Trust. That's how we started this podcast.
Trust. Yep. And yes, you can. As corny as that sounds, in life in general, just remind yourself, yes, you can. If you want to do it, you'll do it. Put your mind to it. I'm Dio. He's Coleman.
Yes, sir.
That is all we have for today. Hey, if you want to hit us up, if you want to find us, I'm a little bit easier to find because I'm going to throw out my contact info. It is dowen@waterstonemortgage.com, dustinowen.com. 407-645-6363. Look, we're not big time enough for us not to throw those numbers out. So if you call us, if you email us, you're going to get us. And Coleman, how do we find you?
On this podcast twice a week. Until then, it's the Loan Officer Podcast with Dustin Owen.
Peace. Oh my gosh, Sonny, I can't find my teeth.